Alrighty. I think we got it.
Awesome.
If it doesn't, we'll go find a different route. Anyway, welcome to the podcast. This is
First episode.
This is episode 1, the Noles and Dawgs podcast. I'm Hunter. I'm the Georgia Bulldog fan. I don't have anything on right now, but we'll start doing stuff.
I'm Dylan. I'm the Florida State Seminole fan. I also don't have anything on right at the moment, but I'm saving it for tomorrow, all right? Saving it for tomorrow. Big one coming.
Big time. What time is that game at?
8 o'clock, ABC.
Ooh. Oh, so you guys are going to get like Mark Daniels and Mark David, or
Actually, it might be ACC Network. I don't remember for sure. I have both, so it doesn't matter, but
yeah.
it's life of Big Shot.
Okay. Right?
Yeah.
We have, I'm trying to like move over so I can get my doc here. We have Todd Blackledge and Sean McDonough calling our game.
Ooh, that's a good.
Yeah, so
What time's that game at?
7 o'clock on ESPN. Since Georgia doesn't get night games at home,
Yeah.
we haven't had one since last year, South Carolina. So we get to be the away team's night game.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Sanford Stadium doesn't get any good like home games. It feels like this year was the first year. Like this year was the first time I've ever heard like a hyped up matchup for a Georgia home game.
I mean, like last year there was the Arkansas game, which was a big game, hyped up because they were 4-0. They had just beaten A&M. They had looked pretty good, but it was a noon kickoff.
They were frauds.
They were frauds, but at the time you can't. They're 4-0. I mean,
Yeah.
but that was a noon kickoff, and then you had the Kentucky game, which game day was there. They were like 11th in the country, but again, it was a 3:30. So like we only had one night game, and it was South Carolina. So it kind of stinks because like the Tennessee game should have been the night game, or
I don't understand why it wasn't.
because
Listen,
so CBS
because CBS didn't even have a night game.
Yeah, they did. So CBS gets one night game a year. And they also, since they have the rights to the SEC still, they have the top choice. So they used their night slot earlier this year, the doubleheader slate, earlier this year for the A&M Alabama game.
That's like the worst game they could have picked too.
Yeah, because
Like that was just sloppy football. You're watching two backups stink.
again, at the time you don't know it because of all the hype or all the crap that was going on in the offseason. You just don't know. But
The Jimbo and the Saban.
yeah, but
All right, well, let's get straight into it. So
Yes.
because we don't have forever here, so we'll start out with the UGA game. Just
No, I
because
was
that is the
gonna
number
start-
one team in the country.
oh, appreciate it. So, Dogs are at Mississippi State this weekend. The line is 16. I think it's 16 still right now. The over/under is 53.5. So, they're coming off a gargantuan win. Where Georgia is beating the brakes off of Tennessee. We had the number one team in the country. They were frauds. I mean, let's be honest. But
They had a good offense, but they hadn't been tested. They had
The
not
fact
been
that-
tested by a real defense, to be honest.
I know because Bama's defense is solid, but they're not anything special. But the fact that they were being compared to the 2019 LSU team was outrageous and, quite frankly, was disrespectful to that team. I mean, my Dogs
I agree.
lost. I mean, Georgia lost by 27 to LSU. Granted, we
That
had
was
Jake
I
Fromm.
remember that game.
Granted, we had Jake Fromm, who was our quarterback, and who wasn't bad. I would not. But George Pickens was suspended the first half of that game because he beat the shit out of the guy.
Georgia Tech fight, yeah.
Yeah, so he beat the shit out
I
of the guy.
heard that. Yep.
So he was funny, quite frankly, because he came in the second half and he scored a touchdown. So, but anyway, we have Mississippi State. We're at Starkville. I don't want to say it's maybe
It's at
like a trap.
Starkville.
Yes, it is at Starkville. We don't. Our last home game is Georgia Tech. So could be. I'm not thinking it's a trap game. If I was going to lose a game this year in the regular season, I'd rather have it be this game because it's a non-divisional game, so it doesn't have any impact on us. That's why it was so big that we won last week. But I think we'll take care of business. I think it's going to be really cold. It's supposed to be really cold there Saturday night. So it's going to be a run game. They run a 3-3-5 defense, so I think we should have no problem with that. My only issue is Will Rogers lit us up 2 years ago. I know it's a different defense, but I just hopefully I want to see if we can just bounce back, keep it going. No letdown spot because we're at Kentucky the week after with a chance to clinch the division. So hopefully we just take care of business and just roll. I don't know if you have anything about it.
So only keys I really have to this game is going to be Mississippi State is coming off a bloodbath where they barely got out of the game with Auburn.
They blew like a 20-point lead.
An Auburn team, yeah. It was an Auburn team they had no business being in a game with, actually.
No.
Which this game, to me, is going to prove one of two things. Either Auburn, under Cadillac Williams, has a heartbeat and they can compete with teams, or Mississippi State is falling off. The Mississippi State cannot keep up, that Mike Leach may have been not the answer there, and that they need to eventually move on as soon as possible.
What we
because
do
if
now,
he's at this 3 years in. He's 3 years in at Mississippi State. They haven't beat Alabama once. They haven't even competed with Alabama one time. They haven't beat Ole Miss once. They're sitting in mediocrity, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And for a program that wants to compete, I don't, because you do have one of the best offensive minds in the sport in Mike Leach. He is a great offensive guy. He can coach. He can get you good, like NFL offensive, like players like receivers and quarterbacks and stuff. But you got to accept that he's not going to be able to coach your defense to even stop like the children of the poor.
That's where I'm. That's why I think that we should have no issue because Leach's. I mean, if you look, they don't really. Every time they have the big bad boys on the block come to play them, they crumble.
They crumble.
I mean, BAMA earlier this year, 30-6. LSU this year completely blew that game. I mean,
it's every
they really
year
only.
It's every year with them.
Even Kentucky, they went into Kentucky and struggled against that offense and that defense.
Yeah.
So I think they beat up on inferior opponents. I don't disrespect Will Rogers. I do worry about it because he can throw the ball. He's a really good. I think he's a really good thrower. I think he's an underrated quarterback.
He's a good passer.
Now, granted, they do throw the ball about 60 times a game. So. Because their run game is more of just throw it into a screen. So
their run game is like 3rd and 1 or it's a screen pass. Their running backs spend more time blocking than running the ball.
A key matchup I was looking at possibly for this game would be the pretty much running game of Georgia versus the Mississippi State run defense, because they're actually, to be honest, so it's funny though, because as far as their 3-3-5D, Mississippi State does run the ball or stop the run decently well. Yeah, I'm looking at the stats right here. They only
force you to throw the ball.
They do because it's crazy because I'm looking at their splits. Mississippi State's defense is allowing 325 yards a game through the air, but only 80 yards rushing. So, I want to see, even 2 years ago when these two teams met, Georgia didn't run the ball well. They ran for under 100. So they forced JT Daniels to throw the ball. So I want to see if we can establish the run early. If you can establish the run early, I think we'll be fine because then you could just run the ball because we have Kenny, Deshaun, and Branson with now Kendall Milton back.
Yep.
I think you can just kind of keep this well-oiled machine rolling. I think that would be the biggest key right there.
I think also, though, is a big reason as to why their rushing stats are so low is you're playing a shootout with Mississippi State most weeks.
Yeah.
That if you can't stop them from moving down the field at the beginning of the game, like you got to stop them from getting off quick. Because if they get off quick, you can't run the ball because you gotta score quick. Because if you can't keep up with that Mississippi State offense, I mean,
that's why I think it was.
Yeah.
That's why I think it was big that we played. This final thought. I think this is big though that we played Tennessee the week before, because offensively, like scheme wise, they all have the same. Like they wanted, it's air raid, it's like spread you out, get you going downfield. I want you spread out, so you have to play only about. You can only stack 4 or 5 in the box, so that way we can kind of work with you. So I think it was good that we stopped Tennessee's offense. I think we should have no problem stopping Mississippi State.
Yeah.
But that's why you play the games. That's why you play the game.
So I think we're both going to agree. I think Georgia wins this. Mm-hmm. I think they're not going to win by as much as the point spread's going to be. I think they win by 10. Because I think Mississippi State's going to be able to score. That's just what they do. There's never been a team outside of Alabama who they just lay a crap on every single year for the past, 15 years. They haven't.
I don't know. They said the same thing with Tennessee.
I think they keep it within 10.
I think we beat them by.
Yeah, but I think Tennessee got into their own heads there also.
I don't know.
I think Tennessee bought into themselves. Mississippi State's going to come in.
I think
they're going to be like, we have nothing to lose.
I think it's like a 38, maybe 38-20 game. I think we beat them. I think we cover.
Maybe.
I would be shocked if they got to 20. I think it's like a 38-17 game. I think we get out in front early and they score maybe a late touchdown late, but nothing crazy.
I get you.
All right.
The only thing I would say is if they get if they start off quick, I think it's a close game.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those like it's like a USC style game where Georgia has the game the whole time. But when you look at the box score, you're going to be like, wow, it was a close matchup. When you look at time of possession, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's should be a decent one. But all right, we'll move on.
All right.
Go on to the Florida State game now.
Florida State game. Florida State is going to be heading into the Carrier Dome to play Syracuse at 8 o'clock. I just checked. It is on ACC Network. Florida State is favored by let me double check that point spread, but last time I checked, it was 7 points, which I think is a little bit high for this game, because Syracuse has been a pretty good team this year, but there is a possibility their quarterback is hurt. Let me just double check. Florida State is favored.
What's his name? Schrader.
Yep, Schrader. So I was looking at they're going back. He may or may not be hurt. He may or may not be hurt. The team isn't really saying much. Yeah, Florida State is favored. 7-point favorite. Yeah, they're a 7-point favorite. The over/under is 51. And what I think the keys to this game will be Sean Tucker and can Florida State stop the run? Because Florida State has the number 1 offense in the ACC by points, by passing. Number 1 offense in the ACC, and they have the number 3 defense in the ACC. Yeah. They're the only other team in the ACC that has a top 20 offense and a top 20 defense. The other one being Clemson, which blew my mind that their offense is top 20. But cupcake games,
I don't know. Yeah, right.
So, if Florida State this year has not been able to stop the run very well, though. They don't give up a lot of passing yards, surprisingly. They don't turn the ball over a lot, but they give up rushing yards.
Yeah, I'm looking at the stats now. It's 211 yards rushing. Oh, no, that was looking at allowing. You're allowing 143.
Yeah, but they're only allowing 165 passing yards a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's weird because their pass defense is kind of much outside of Akeem Dent is a bigger name on their passing, on their secondary. They don't turn the ball over. They don't create turnovers. The only game where we've really turned the ball over several times was Miami, and they were more giving the ball away than we were taking it from them. So my question will be: is if Florida State who has a pretty good front with Jared Verse leading it. If they can slow Sean Tucker out the gate, I think Florida State could win this game big. Because Jordan Travis right now is the second-rate passer in the country. Obviously, because the team is 6-3, and he had a horrible game against us. He's not even in the Heisman conversation. He is in the O'Brien Trophy and the Maxwell. He is in that, but he's probably going to finish first-team ACC quarterback because he is playing that well this year. The only one he's going up against is Drake May. And
Drake May should be a Heisman.
He should be the Heisman, to be honest.
Yeah,
like right this second.
I think
Ohio State bias, bro. It's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, unbelievable. But I think Drake May might be a top overall pick in the draft whenever he's eligible.
I agree.
He's that good.
He's 6'4". He's got a huge arm. He's mobile. He's over 400 rushing yards this year.
That's insane. I will say, so the only thing Syracuse has, they tend to play better at home, I will say. I mean, I don't have any of the stats in front of me about that, but like just from watching them this year, when they get a team at home that is questionable, other than really Notre Dame this year, they've played them close or they've won outright. So like, I mean, that's the only thing, but I think, like you said, FSU I think they'll start off. I think they're going to jump from the start early, and I think they will.
That's been Florida State's biggest benefit, is if they can get in a groove, like offensively, it's a machine. It's hard to stop. Like Jordan Travis is with the option. Jordan Travis is quick. He's mobile, and they got 3 running backs who are all averaging over 70 yards a game.
That's why Georgia is always so dominant too, because you can just like FSU, if you can punch them in the mouth early, and you can just start throwing haymakers at them, it's hard to stop. It's hard to stop, and you really don't know how to respond to it. So that's why it's always you can just, if you can start early, just from the top. I mean, you pretty much have that game taken care of.
I would say my key matchup though is going to be, I want to see how wide receiver Johnny Wilson is. He is probably the biggest mismatch against anybody in this country.
Isn't he like 6? How tall is he? Isn't he like 6'7"? 6'7"?
He's 6'7" wide receiver.
That's like Darnell Washington.
Yeah. He plays like Mike Evans. That's his biggest. He plays like a Mike Evans, like 4 years ago Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Where the only problem he has is the same problem Mike Evans had, is a drop problem. So he drops the ball a lot.
Yeah.
But when if Florida State early on, if you watch, if they get some go routes running early, like a 2nd and 3, right? They're gonna chuck the ball down to Pokey Wilson or Johnny Wilson, one of those two guys, because I think it's a complete mismatch.
It is.
Athleticism Florida State has against Syracuse. So I'm gonna go. My guess is gonna be 38 Florida State to 17 Syracuse. That's my prediction.
I think they'll win outright and cover.
Yep. I think they're going to have 300 rushing yards in this game. I think it's going to be a big Florida State win.
I'll write that one down. 300 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's move to some of the, because we like to say on this podcast, since it is the Noles and Dawgs, we want to get our games out of the way first.
Yep.
Because obviously those are the biggest headlines are, obviously. Yep. Obviously, sometimes, like earlier in the season, it's not going to be like that. It might be a quick little, like, hey, we're about to beat the shit out of one team. So, yeah.
Yep.
Anyway.
Next week, I believe we both play.
We have, we have Kentucky. We're at Kentucky next week.
Okay. Well, we play Louisiana. So
yeah.
We play the Raging Cajuns at home. We're probably going to give them 5 seconds maybe on this show.
Bayou Billy Napier's alma mater, her former team.
They're not doing so great.
One thing we can agree on this podcast is we do not like Florida. Hate them. Hate them. So we took care of them. We did our business. Now, can you guys do it?
I think we will.
Okay.
We'll be at home this year. We got them at home. We're going to get them. We're going to get a Florida team that, for the most part, still lacks a real identity and might be trying to get into a bowl game going in.
Right.
So,
we'll see. I think you guys will beat them, though. Their defense is atrocious.
They can't stop the run.
All right, so we'll go into the biggest matchups of the week now. We have we listed about 5, the biggest ones, but we'll start with noon kickoff in Fayetteville, Arkansas, is where the 7th-ranked LSU Tigers will head down after probably one of the bigger wins, the biggest win in Brian Kelly's tenure.
Quick tenure.
I think in just general in his coaching wise, I don't think he's ever had a bigger win than that.
The only win I would say he might have above that is going to be his win against Clemson in 2020.
But to be fair, Lawrence didn't play that game.
Lawrence didn't play. Yeah, I agree. The only thing I would say is that might be bigger, but we'll see.
But then if you want to counter that, they played each other again in the ACC title game, and that was over before it started. So
it made the playoffs, though.
It did. They did.
ACC had a good year.
God bless Notre Dame. Anyway, so LSU's going to Arkansas. It's a noon kickoff on ESPN. They are a 3-point favorite right now. The only issue is, and I don't see it, I don't know. Do you see a letdown spot for LSU?
I see the possibility. I see a scenario in which LSU just can't get the ball rolling. They fall down early, and they can't get back up. Mm-hmm. But this Arkansas team has probably been – they just look like they can't catch a break.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, even like last week, Liberty?
Like that A&M game, I think it crushed the soul out of this year's team. Like they got –
It might have.
I really do think they got – I think a lot of the guys on that team didn't quit. I wouldn't say they quit, but I would say they're not there anymore.
I will say
they're not mentally caring.
I will say the only issues, I don't know from a caring standpoint, but we don't really know what KJ Jefferson's been hurt since like the Alabama game where he went out late, and then but like even last week I've heard like some of the players in the locker room didn't know if he was playing or not, even like right before game time. So like we don't know the status of KJ Jefferson or what he's going to be up to. I don't know how effective he'll be. You don't know how effective he'll be, even if he does play. I know that's a tricky spot just for any team to go into Arkansas. But I don't know. This LSU team, I think, is rolling. Jaden Daniels is playing really well, really good football right now. They're buying in, I think, to what Brian Kelly wants to do here.
I think Brian Kelly is building a winning culture in Baton Rouge.
I think
not like a Coach O where he just had a bunch of talent together where he was like, all right, let's get one guy who knows offense. I think it's more of a he is setting up the program to run the SEC West for the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. If he can bring in the athletes on his class right now, they continue to roll. I think the way he coaches, it's just this is.
Because he'll be able to get the guys out of. He'll be able to control the state of Louisiana. Easily, he has Texas next to him on the one side, and then he has Alabama, Mississippi. If he can get to Georgia, maybe, and anywhere else.
I doubt Georgia, to be honest.
I think his biggest weapon is right now is that he has Louisiana. If he can get Louisiana down on lockdown, and he can go trickle into Texas where he can steal some people from like A&M or Texas.
Especially while A&M is down right now.
Exactly. I think that's the big key right there. If he can go in and take them all before maybe A&M turns things around, that'll be big. But I think this team's rolling. And I really don't. I think they'll win outright. I think they cover the spread. I may be a little close to the beginning, just because you want to see how they respond early, especially after coming off a giant win like they had last week. But I think
very emotional win too.
For sure. I mean, Death Valley at night. What a sight. right? But I do think Jaden Daniels. I think Keyshawn Butte has a big day because Arkansas's pass D is not very good. I think Butte has a big day, and I think Harold Perkins and B.J. Ojolari they wreak havoc like they have been. And crazy, Harold Perkins, I believe, is a freshman.
Yes, he is. He was actually committed to A&M. He was committed to A&M, and then he was committed to A&M and then decommitted and went to LSU.
Like, I mean, if you watch the game, if you watch the game against Bama, he was giving Bryce Young nightmares.
He's a freak.
He's very good. And B.J. Ojolari,
he'll be playing on Sundays.
So, and I think B.J. Ojolari will too, just like his brother. Proud Georgia Bulldog, Aziz. Always have to tie it back together.
Yeah, you do.
But I think LSU wins outright. What do you think?
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's close. You go ahead.
I think this game is getting a lot of hype just because this is an LSU team that nobody saw coming. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of the season, there's a lot of people calling for Brian Kelly's head. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I think especially after the Florida State game, I think there is not I don't think this game is really even going to be all that close. I just think there's a lot of people who are expecting LSU to let us down.
That's what I think too. I think that's
yeah.
It would just be such a prototypical letdown. It's a noon kickoff at Arkansas. I mean, just a perfect recipe. But I do think that they're playing with house money and knowing the fact that you can eliminate Bama from SEC West contention with a win, and you can put the clamps on. And you can put the clamps on to Ole Miss if you just win out. So I think they will. Which I think, are we done here with this one? Unless you had anything else to say about it?
I really don't have anything else to say, but go Tigers.
Go Tigers. Which, speaking of Alabama Ole Miss, which I just brought up, which would lead me right into this. 3:30 on CBS, where Gary Danielson and the great Brad Nessler will be calling the game. Bama and Ole Miss take the field. It's at Ole Miss. I believe Bama's getting 12 right now. Still a crazy number. But my big question was from this game is, how motivated do you think Bama's going to be? Because you can either get two sides to this. I think you can either get because keep in mind, the key is LSU plays before them. So if LSU wins and effectively eliminates Bama, are we going to get the Bama that says, just the instant human reaction of, well, we can't do anything else. That's the season, guys. Or are we going to get let's just go out, play Bama style football and just dominate? Mm-hmm. I don't know. That was my biggest key or question coming in.
So I'm just to clarify, we get in this. Alabama is ranked number 9 in the country, actually. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, Ole Miss is ranked 11. So this is 9 versus 11. They should, but committee bias. If that cursive A was not on that uniform, they would probably be like 15 or 16 now. Let's be honest here.
It's the same thing with Clemson. If they look what they did 2-3 years ago. No, they're not here anymore. It's what's happening now.
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence doesn't play for Clemson anymore. They shouldn't be ranked 10. Deshaun Watson's not there.
Kelly Bryant's not there. Taj Boyd isn't there. Those guys are gone.
No, Mac Jones isn't there anymore. Devontae Smith's not there anymore. Tua Tagovailoa's not there anymore. Stop ranking them because of what they are biasly from a overall standpoint and what they did before last year.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So what I would say for this matchup, the biggest thing to look after is Alabama has not been able to stop the run all year. That's been their biggest weakness, is that they are not a very physical Alabama team.
Interior, especially in the interior.
Interior, and if you've watched Ole Miss this year, they can't run the ball well. They can't throw the ball well, but you know what they can do? They run the ball. They run the ball a lot. I think they, correct me if I'm wrong, they have the best rushing attack in the SEC, possibly the nation.
They do, because they want to take the stress off of Jackson Dart. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So this could end up one of two ways. Either one, we get an all-time, classic Nick Saban up. They come back after losing and they look great, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or we can get what I think the numbers would say is that Ole Miss is going to run all over Alabama. This is in Mississippi. This is in this is a home game. This is going to be sold out stadium. The student section is going to be rocking. Lane Kiffin's going to be talking. It's it's going to be. Yep. I think it's going to be a great game, but I think Ole Miss is going to win this game. I think they just matched up really good against this year's Alabama squad.
Yeah.
I think if any year for Lane Kiffin to beat Nick Saban, this is the season for him.
I'm going to write that one down, too.
Yeah.
Touching on what you said, I agree. The biggest key is, can Ole Miss establish the run? Because if you go back just a couple weeks ago when they were playing at LSU, what was the reason why that game got out of hand in the second half?
They couldn't get a solid running game going.
They couldn't get the run game going.
They can't rely on Jackson Dart. He's not.
I don't think
Matt
he's
Corral.
Well, Sue, here's the thing, because he hasn't started a whole lot, so he's still kind of learning how it is to run this offense. I think playing in the SEC, I think the more he starts, the better, more experience he's going to get. I think he's not a bad quarterback. I think he's just young still. Is he only like a sophomore?
Yeah, he is.
So he's still young.
I think he's technically because of the COVID. I think he's no, not COVID. Because I don't think he started enough games at USC last year before he got hurt. I think he's technically still a redshirt freshman.
Yeah, so he's still young.
He's really young.
Mm-hmm. So he's going to continue to grow, I think. So I think he does good. I think he's going to be fine there. But I do believe if they can establish the run, they can take the stress off of Dart. They can only have him make you're still going to need to rely on him. He's still going to have to make some throws. But if they can take some of the stress off and just hand it off to Zach Evans and I forget their other guy.
They're all good.
If they can and they can establish the run, because if you think about it, because Bama's D, like I said, their interior D is not good. Their corner now, their ends are good. They have, because you got Dallas Turner who plays that outside linebacker end spot, and then you got Will Anderson who's on the end spot. But as far as interior, they don't really do that. Now I haven't watched a whole lot of Ole Miss. I don't know. I'm not sure if I don't believe they're a big power football, like run it up the middle. I think they're more of a counter, spread you out. Well, I don't know though.
They run a lot of looks. I watched the whole Georgia Tech game where they won 42-0 because there was nothing better to do that day.
Yeah.
So with their running backs, they create like a lot of different looks. They like to constantly switch it up. They like to constantly change the way they have it. Like they're set up at the line. Mm-hmm. Now, with Zach Evans, they do run it up the middle a little bit, but I guarantee you with this, the game plan going into this is probably going to be we don't get the ball on the outside. If we can create holes in the middle, or we can run play action, get some easy passes for Jackson Dart, get them comfortable so that they're completely off guard. They don't know what's coming. That's my guess is what they're going to be going with. They don't run it up the middle a lot, though. You are right. They do like to run more counters. They like to hand it off to the outside.
Yeah. So there's that, and then I think the other key will be Bama's receivers versus that Ole Miss secondary. Because you have Bama's receivers who have really, honestly, have been pretty much not good this year. Yeah. They have been very disappointing. Because I haven't watched a whole lot of Ole Miss football, but I believe from the few times Ole Miss's secondary has been off. It's kind of like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing, where it's like you might get one day you're going to get like the land shark, and it's just going to be locked down, or
it's going to be shut down. It's
going to be shut down. Limit the big plays, or you're going to get the other version where it's you just better be ready to score some points. Yeah, they're going to start going down the field. So can they get pressure on Bryce Young? I don't know, but
I don't think so.
Which is why if they can't, that's why it's gonna be key if these guys can hold up in the back end. Because if you're gonna give Bryce Young time, he's gonna eat you alive.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a big key. But if you can establish the run, you can keep him off the field. Just milk the clock, and then you can. But I think I think it's gonna be an interesting game. But again, I think it all does tie back to how motivated are they gonna be, because Ole Miss still has a shot to win the West. They just need LSU to slip up one.
It's an outside shot because they don't control their own destiny anymore.
Now, if LSU loses to A&M that last week and Ole Miss wins out, they will clinch the West.
Yes, they will.
So they still have a shot. They still have a bunch to play for. It's like this is a big time game because they realistically have to win this game. Because if they don't win, they're really setting themselves back another game against LSU. Because LSU already owns the tiebreaker over both of them. So this is a big game, I think, for both teams.
And I think Lane Kiffin has probably let his team know that we still have a chance at the playoff, guys. Like it's not guaranteed to us, but if we win out and LSU loses a game, we go to this SEC championship, we pull off a miracle against Georgia, we're going to the we're going to the playoff, guys. Yeah, and I think he'll have his
as a one-loss team.
One-loss SEC champ is going to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, I understand. There's the conversation is a two-loss SEC champ. Is that kind of like pushing the boundary of what is allowed? But like a one-loss, like Ole Miss
is a surefire.
That's a guaranteed.
So
that's That's probably a top 2 spot in the playoff too.
And if Ole Miss wins, that means Georgia's going to get in right after.
Yeah, absolutely.
Georgia. I'm telling you right now, and we'll talk about this more in our playoff ranking show.
Yeah.
The worst thing for some of these outside teams is if Georgia loses in the SEC title game, because they're going to win out.
Yeah.
More than likely, they're going to more than likely win out. But if they slip up, they're going to get a spot because their resume is better than everyone else's. Because when you beat the shit out of both top 10 teams, like the way they did, they're going to get in. So you're already taking up 2 spots. Yeah. So that'll be interesting.
I think if you're a fan of Tennessee, TCU, or any of the Pac-12 schools, you are hoping Georgia wins out. That's your best bet at a playoff spot. Is not only you winning out, but you need Georgia to win out so they can hold down that number 1 spot. So there's not confusion at the end of the playoff rankings, because that's an easy spot for you to get. Yeah.
Correct. All right. Give me
Let's move on.
We are going to move on. I have to go get my charger, though, because my computer's about to die. Maybe one second.
Awesome.
Keep them entertained.
All right. I'm just going to go over some little stuff. So we're going to start with Texas versus TCU. It's game day weekend there. College football games day is going to be there. So it's in Austin, right in the middle of Texas. We're not going or anything like that, but this game is going to have huge implications for the Big 12 title race. Not only that, but the playoff. Because an undefeated TCU is something I don't know if the playoff wants it. But it could happen. Like, this is a legitimate conversation that a TCU team that, with the first-year head coach, with the start of the season unranked, no aspirations to even – they were probably hoping to make a bowl game in the first year of the new head coach, is looking at not only a Big 12 conference title, but the possibility of entering themselves into the discussion for making the college football playoff. And the first year of their new head coach is probably the best first year run by a head coach we may have ever have seen in this sport, to be quite honest. Now, what TCU is a Cinderella story. Are you back, Hunter? I'll be right back, folks. Just 1 second.
What I should have done a long time ago was put some light on there. So
yeah.
Right,
so I was just giving them the basic rundown on the TCU Texas matchup, but I think the biggest thing I was saying is this is a Cinderella TCU story. This is a first-year head coach. It's a first-year head coach.
By the way, done a great job too.
Oh, thank you. Yes. And they came into the season probably hoping to make a bowl game. That was probably what inside of the
I don't know.
program.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of expectations for this.
I guarantee you within the team, every team goes into the season where we are this team, where this is our year. But from what I've seen of the fan base, the expectation was, this is a first-year head coach, let's give him time.
Yeah.
Let's give him time. Now, he's 3 games away from possibly the best ever season by a first-year head coach at a Power 5 program.
Possibly.
Just quite, I mean, that I don't think there's ever been a Power 5 head coach in their first season to take an undefeated roster into the national championship conversation. New Year's Six Bowl is not that. I mean, that's happened a couple times, but national championship aspirations in the first year is insane. So
I mean, if they win, if they win one more game, they're going to be in a New Year's Six Bowl. So
yeah, they're getting to a New Year's Six Bowl in the first year. Their new head coach, they went out. You're going to the first ever time the TCU's gone to the playoffs when they were, they barely missed out in 2014
because they got screwed because of it.
They got screwed by Ohio State, but
only because if they would have got in, because they were ranked 3rd, but they would have got in, but there was no Big 12 title game at the time.
Yep. So Baylor and TCU with the same record finished. Yep, 5-6.
Co-champs, and that kicked them out. And then when the year Ohio State didn't they beat Wisconsin by 59 or something in the Big 12 title or Big 10 title game or something stupid like that.
What was it? Was it 2016? The year that they didn't win the Big Ten. Ohio State lost. They lost to Penn State. They don't win the Big Ten because Penn State goes to the championship, but they went to the playoff and got
Penn State won the Big Ten, and still didn't get in.
Big Ten. Yep. But Ohio State got in the playoffs.
Yeah. Tell me how that adds up. I'll wait.
It's blue blood bias, but we'll move on from that.
100%.
So the keys for this game for me is going to be with Texas. That's where I think this game lies on, is what can Texas do to stop TCU? Now, Texas has a couple advantages. The biggest advantage Texas has is someone standing on the sideline named Gary Patterson, who was the head coach of this program last year, who I think almost every single starter on the roster was brought to the team by Gary Patterson, who he coached, who he knows how they play.
Yep.
So I think that's why people are confused on why Texas is 7.5-point favorites. I'm going to go with it's that. It's a home game for Texas, and Texas has a massive talent advantage. Now, I personally think TCU is going to win this game. I think TCU is motivated for this. Texas is dealing with. I think there's part of that program that doesn't fully trust Sark yet, just because he can't coach in the second half of these games.
Yeah,
and this TCU's biggest advantage is. Yeah, he falls apart in the fourth quarter, and TCU's biggest advantage is the fact that they dominate the second half of games. So, if Texas doesn't have a lights-out game from Quinn Ewers, and Gary Patterson doesn't have a game plan that doesn't shut down TCU's offense, I think TCU wins this game close, but I think they win it.
I think the biggest key is TCU cannot fall behind like they have been.
Yeah.
They can't. I don't think they're going to – it's a hostile environment. I don't care. And they're not going to be able – I don't think – Bijan Robinson will run all over them. So I think that – I do think that TCU – you hear that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can.
1 second.
It's all good.
We're going to move somewhere else. We're going to go field trip, guys.
Okay. We're gonna see Hunter's place right now. I think you're muted. Okay, there you go.
As I was saying, biggest takeaway from this game: if TCU falls behind, they will not win this game. If you cannot fall behind by double digits and expect to win this game, I don't care. Quinn Ewers is good enough to run that offense, and let's be honest, TCU's defense is not very good. They're not very good. So, if you're gonna test that game again, Bijan Robinson will run for 200 yards and turn little drives into 6 to 7 minute drives, and just eat your butt until you're looking up and it's start of the fourth quarter and you're down by 14, 17, and you're like, oh shit.
Before you even know it.
Exactly.
Before you even know it.
I mean, I don't know why they start so slow. I couldn't tell you, but for some reason they turn it on. They're asleep at the start of the game, but then they wake up and they're like, oh shit.
I don't understand it either. And
even last week against
If I'm going to be honest with you, I don't love TCU's the way they've played. I don't think this is a real playoff team. If I'm going to be quite frank with you, I think this is like a Cincinnati last year where, sure, they won their conference, they went undefeated. You got to let them do it because they've done everything they needed to. Just let them get blown out by number one. Move on. It's a free pass, but number one has won every single year in the playoff except for the first year.
Yep. Oh, that was the BAMA Ohio State.
Yeah. But I think.
Go ahead.
What I would say is that with Texas, you got Quinn Ewers, who one of the most talented quarterbacks in college football. He can throw it everywhere. He can throw it, but he's still young. And
he is.
If there's one game, if there's one game where TCU's defense might be motivated, it's Texas. That's a game that I think anybody in the Big 12, that's the game they get motivated for. Doesn't matter how bad Texas is. That's the game on the season. You circle that game for your Big 12 team. We're playing Texas this week.
Mm-hmm. I do think.
So if I'm.
Go ahead.
I think this game is going to be really close. It's like a coin flip for me at this point, just because I think TCU is really motivated. They want to go to the playoff. They really want to do this. But I think Texas is a better team. I think Texas really is a better team.
I think having the game at Texas for like Quinn Ewers especially is ginormous because you're able to now you can feed off that home environment, and I don't know, but I think just having the game there, because let's be honest, I mean TCU's had their games, their big games, most of them have been at home. And those have been the games that they've had to come back on. Like Kansas State, down 18 at some point. Texas Tech, they were down, I want to say it was like 13, maybe? Now also, TCU does, a little quick note here, TCU does have a tendency to knock your quarterback out of the game. They did it last week.
And this guy has gotten hurt before.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Ewers does have a shoulder that has been injured already this season.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you can knock their quarterback out, but then again, you could just hand the ball to Bijan Robinson, and it'd be done from there.
But that's what they did against Bama, and it's just like Sark just doesn't know what he's doing sometimes. It feels like.
But I think you'll have better success against TCU than you will Bama. Bama's still going to limit you as far as points.
But I think it's just if TCU can knock Sark off of what his original game plan is, I think you immediately got to think, okay, this is going to be bad for Texas because it does not seem like they make adjustments at all.
Yeah,
like they don't. Like if they're making adjustments, well, we're not seeing them because every single time in the second half they looked flat, they looked lost, and then the fourth quarter they let it run away from them.
Yeah, I do think this game's a shootout, though. I do believe it's a shootout.
Yeah.
Max Duggan is another Heisman candidate that should be getting a little bit more love than I think he is.
Yep.
So I think, he's throwing the ball really well right now. And I forget their
first year in the system too.
I know. That's why Sonny Dykes has done one hell of a job.
I know.
I forget their wide receiver. What's his name? It's Quintez Johnson.
I'm saying, yeah, he's mocked for the first round. Yeah.
6'4", 215. He has. I'm looking at his numbers now. He has 42 receptions for 650 yards and 4 touchdowns.
He's a good player.
He's very good. But I'm looking at yards allowed. The rushing yards allowed, both of them are pretty much the same. That's why I think this is going to be a shootout. And the over-under's at 65. Yeah. I think the over hits. But both offenses are averaging over 440 yards a game. They're averaging over 35 points a game. And they're allowing, each of them are allowing a little over 20. So I think this is going to be a good game. That spread is really big, though. It looks like most of the money is going towards Texas, though. It's 7.5. I don't know.
You know what? I'm gonna go with Texas here.
You're going to Texas? Change your mind?
I was thinking TCU at first, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, okay. I think Texas is a better offense.
Yeah.
Even with Max Duggan at TCU, I think when you have Bijan Robinson, who, Quinn Ewers can rely on if he is struggling in the passing game, he does have an elite running back he can rely on. Mm-hmm. I think a home game. This is a letdown game for TCU too. You know what I mean?
Well, they still have Baylor coming up. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
But if they lose this game, their season's done. They're not going to the playoff with the loss.
No, they might make the Big 12 title. I haven't looked at the standings yet, but I know
it would. But
if they could somehow, if Texas somehow got back to the Big 12 title game and they avenged their loss, maybe, because your one loss you just avenged it, but.
But they'd be fighting. They'd be fighting. What they would be fighting against, though, in that scenario, would be a Tennessee team with possibly one loss, a Pac-12 champ with one loss. Mm-hmm. And I think the Pac-12 champ is going to look better than TCU does.
Yep.
So that's
agree there.
Yeah. Agree. So let's move on, so we don't stay too much time.
True. All right.
Fun game. This is the funnest game of the week to me.
I would 100% agree. So we have UCF and Tulane. Folks, don't look now, but both teams are ranked in the American Conference. The winner, what makes this game so intriguing, this is probably the biggest game at Tulane in a while.
I think almost ever. This is the biggest game since they were in the SEC, probably.
Possibly. I remember they were supposed to have Oklahoma there, I think, last year, but there was a storm. They almost beat Oklahoma, though. Remember, they almost beat them.
They did almost last year. Yep.
So, who knows? But this is about as close to a toss-up as you can get. Mm-hmm. Tulane comes in, ranked 17th in the country. UCF, 22 in the country. This is college football playoff rankings we're using. This is the only ones that matter at this point.
The AP is it only matters if your team is ranked in the AP and not the playoff.
Exactly.
That's the only reason to use the AP still.
Exactly. So, it's at Tulane. Tulane is a 1-point favorite now. The line just went down to from 1.5 to 1. Over-under is 54.5. It looks like most of the money is going towards Tulane minus 1.5 at 71%.
Yep.
The biggest thing about this game is the winner gets the inside track to the New Year's Six game.
Yep. Which
is always a big thing, especially for these conferences that are the group of 5. But you get to the inside track to win the title, your conference tournament. But the big thing is the New Year's Six game. But also, if you think about it, so a couple years from now, when they go to 12 teams, the winner or the highest ranked group of 5 is the 5 seed.
Yep.
Or maybe it's the 5. Or just makes it in general. I don't think they're the 5. I think they're just overall.
I think they just make it. They make it, but the rankings will be more friendly to them.
Yes.
But to be fair, UCF this wouldn't matter because UCF would be
in the Big 12.
Yeah,
they're next year, right?
Next year, yes. They'll be in the Big 12 with Texas. I think they play Texas the first year.
By the way, I think UCF would be. I think they're going to be able to contend in that conference.
I do too. I think they're going to walk in and probably be the
I don't
second
think they'll
best,
win
if
it.
not the. I think they can win it within the first 3 years.
I don't know if they'll win it, but I think they will be able to contend. I think they'll be a upper middle tier, like a 3 or 4th team. But eventually, I think they might because remember, Oklahoma and Texas are going to be gone in a couple of years, another year or two. So really, So after next
they're only going to play with them for a season.
Yeah, so I think you're going to look at a spot where a UCF team they're getting a bunch of teams that are also coming with them that they've beaten. So I don't think they'll have too much of a trouble transitioning, maybe travel-wise, but West Virginia does the same thing.
I mean, West Virginia does it, and UCF was already going up to Cincinnati, Ohio, Rice.
Houston.
They were doing... The only game that's really going to be far away now was going to be them going to, Baylor? Which...
BYU, it'll be now.
I forgot about BYU. That's a tough Florida to Utah.
They beat BYU, I think, earlier this year. I want to say. Maybe they didn't.
Was it last year?
No, wait, never mind. Then they played BYU. I apologize.
It's 2020. You're thinking 2020.
There you go.
BYU beat UCF.
Because if we look at the standings, I just want to see. Maybe we could find the standings. It's supposed to be sunny there, 71. Beautiful. UCF comes in 7-2, ranked 4-1. They are in second place. So right now, if the season ended, these two teams would play again, but it would be at Tulane. Tulane comes in 5-0, 8-1 record, and they are 5-0 in conference. So, obviously the winner of this is going to get the inside track to the year 6.
Yep.
Winner of this is going to get the inside track of hosting the conference title game because remember in the AC they don't have a venue; they just play the top ranked person. So that's really big, obviously. And usually every once in a while you get some decent games. So I want to see how this game is because we might be seeing it again real soon. Although watch out, Cincinnati, big game tonight. They're 4-1 as well. So if they win and UCF loses, they're going to pass Cincy.
UCF does have a tiebreaker over them, though.
But they're going to have Cincinnati's going to have a better conference record, too.
That will be true, but
that'll only be
Cincinnati's season isn't over yet.
UCF realistically needs Cincinnati to lose, but that tiebreaker will come in if they have the same conference record. But if they won't, since he wins tonight and UCF loses.
UCF does have an easy schedule going forward. After they play Tulane, if they beat Tulane, they play Navy and then USF. So they quite possibly have one of the easiest schedules in the country to finish the year because they have a triple option service academy school, and then they have the USF, which is easily one of the worst teams in the country right now. They just fired their coach too.
If there's one key to this game, it's not even a key. It's just a question. Is both teams come in on offensively, averaging about 30 points a game. Yep. Defensively, though, both defenses are only allowing under 20 points a game. So I want to see maybe if there's one team that gives, or is it just going to be a shootout, or it's going to be a low-scoring game. But that's all I really have on that game.
So I'm going to make my pick here. I'm going to tell you. I know we've already talked about it. We disagree on this. I think UCF wins this game. I think
Tulane wins the game.
Yep. But the reason I think UCF wins this game is I think they do have a better, more experienced head coach in this exact position, and Gus Malzahn, who has put his team in positions to win road top 25 matchups year in, year out at Auburn. They have a good quarterback in John Rise Pumley, and then their backup, Mikey Keene. He's serviceable. He can win games. He's won on the road. He beat Florida in the Gasparilla Bowl last year. I think UCF is just built for this. I think they're a bigger, tougher team. And I like UCF in this game. I think they're the best team in the American. I think they win the American this year. Their last year in the conference. I know that the American probably is going to hate that, but this is.
Alrighty. We'll just touch on this. It's a key game for some, but we'll just kind of touch on it briefly. Purdue, Illinois. Illinois is a home favorite. They are getting 7 points at home against Purdue. Basically, the big thing about this is Illinois wins this weekend. They can put a stranglehold on the Big Ten West, especially because they got Michigan coming up next week. So they can put a clamp on that Big Ten West, and because they have the tiebreaker over Wisconsin, they'll have the tiebreaker over Purdue. Purdue's in third right now. So really, that's going to be it. Also, if can Aiden O'Connell do anything with this Illinois defense, which is statistically, I believe, still ranked the best in the nation, best scoring defense. Because we've seen this year, Aiden O'Connell does tend to struggle against defenses that are somewhat capable of stopping. And also, can Illinois, if Purdue is having success, can Illinois respond? Because I know, like, a couple times this year they've had trouble getting the passing game going because Chase Brown hasn't been able to get it going on the ground. But I think that's really the biggest thing. If you had anything about it, I think Illinois does win, though. I think it's a lose affair.
I agree with you. I think Illinois is going to win this game. I found out right this second this is a rivalry, which is why I hate the Big Ten right there.
There's too many rivalries in the Big Ten.
They make no sense either.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like Illinois, Purdue, what?
There's a trophy
too, I guess.
I will say, last week, I think that was the letdown spot from Illinois because they were just rolling.
Yep.
But, I mean, they were at home, Michigan State. They were like a 16.5-point favorite, and they just lost outright. So
ridiculous line, I'm going to be honest with you. That line was way too
no way that should have been that high. But
Illinois is good. Illinois is good, and
they're not going to score that many points unless they're going to win.
They're a ranked 15 to 20 team, you know what I mean? That's who they are.
21st right now.
It's respectable. They'll go to like the Gator Bowl or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a bad year for them.
Although I will say a great job by Brett Bielema.
Yeah,
turning this program around because they are pretty much this win away, maybe another one. I don't know the standings situation from going to Indy to become the sacrificial lamb to Ohio State or Michigan.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's all I had on this game. If you had anything else, final thoughts about it, we'll move on.
Well, Illinois is going to win this. Only thing I have to say is it's crazy what Brett Bielema's done there. He turned probably the biggest laughingstock in the Big Ten into the Big Ten West champion, probably.
Well, they're friends.
Which doesn't really mean anything. Northwestern
now.
They won the West in 2020, though.
That's true.
So put that one into perspective.
Alrighty, so at this point now, we've covered the top matchups of the week. So now we're each going to go through, quickly just go over some of our intriguing matchups just personally. So I don't know, do you want to just take turns to going over each one, or do you just want to have me go through mine and you go through yours?
I'll just, you go through yours, I'll just add a couple of details if anything interesting pops up to say about any of those matchups. Okay,
so first game is Missouri-Tennessee. Tennessee coming off the big loss, a ass whooping of a loss this weekend. The score does not dictate how bad they were just outplayed against Georgia. So they're coming in as a 20.5-point favorite against a pesky Missouri team that, quite frankly, does have a good job at slowing your offense down. But I want to see how they respond. It's supposed to be a wet and rainy day in Knoxville, ironically. So I want to see how they respond. If being up so high, does the mountain does it completely avalanche and snowball over, or do they kind of regroup? They should win this game handily, but I want to see if it's a noon kickoff too. So we'll see there. I don't know if you had anything.
Only thing I'll have to say is that Missouri is a sneaky tough SEC East program where they have no business being in games. They have no business being in games.
Tell me about it.
That they somehow compete in. I know Tennessee should roll, but I guarantee you this is going to be a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Move on.
All right, another hot take right there. Liberty at UConn. The only reason why I have this, Liberty 8-1. Again, actually, you know what? As a matter of fact, I want to see.
I think they're ranked.
I was about to say, are they? If they're ranked,
I think they're like
they are
20.
ranked. Let me see.
19. Pulled up 19, but that might be the
AP.
Yeah.
I don't think they're ranked on the college football playoff.
It just keeps pulling up at 19 for me whenever I check in.
Let me see. No, they're not ranked.
Well, in the AP, they're ranked 19.
Okay.
So that's why you use the AP.
Yeah. So they're at UConn this week, and the only reason why I have this, UConn is a win away from becoming bowl eligible under Jim Mora's first year as head coach there. So, first of all, kudos to UConn for having a better record than Florida. We want to
kudos to Jim Mora. That guy.
Dog's following me. What are you doing?
Oh, go ahead.
Kudos to Jim Mora. Kudos to Jim Mora.
Kudos to Jim
Had a
Mora.
good job. He had a good job with the school that, quite frankly, has never done anything in the entire history of its program.
At least in a decade. They haven't been relevant since the Big East.
They haven't been relevant since they tried to make a rivalry with UCF.
Yes. But, I mean, I would not be surprised if UConn covers. They're a 14-point underdog right now. It's in UConn, so but if they win, they go bowling. So that's the only reason why I have that on there. The third game, which could have been a top matchup, Washington at Oregon. These are two ranked opponents. I think this is more of a Washington being ranked to help booster the other resumes. Because, I mean, I haven't really seen a whole lot from Washington to say, like, hey, they're... Yeah, but, I mean, I don't know. Oregon...
Definitely the worst.
The biggest... My biggest thing is, can Bo Nix in this offense for Oregon just keep it rolling? And it helps, again, they're at Autzen. I believe it's a 3:30 or a Saturday night game on Fox. Or...
It's not the after dark game at all.
No, it's a 7 o'clock. It's a 7 o'clock game on Fox. Okay. So it's at Oregon. They're getting 12.5, and I think they will beat Washington by 2.5 scores.
This is also, to me, a spot where Oregon could let down because this is a rivalry.
Go ahead.
I think this is more or less considered. I think Oregon and Washington probably would both consider this their biggest non-in-state rival, the game they care about most.
I think Stanford is more of a rival with Oregon.
Really? When I was watching the game day when they went up to Eugene for the UCLA game, they were all saying Washington was the team they hate.
Maybe.
So
man, border rivals.
That's the only thing I say. Is maybe if Washington can put that like rivalry energy into a matchup against Oregon, let Oregon down, end their chances of the playoffs before it even started, and ruin the Pac-12's chances. Not impossible. That's all I'm going to say. I still think Oregon's going to win, but
I think Oregon's going to win, knowing that it's at Autzen. I think it's the big thing because you saw what that happened at UCLA. Mm-hmm. When UCLA came in, they didn't know what to do with themselves. But I think Oregon being at 6. Knowing that the loss that they took was by 46, knowing that they, realistically, if they want to get in, they have to kind of effectively just beat teams to death. You know what I mean? Like, blow them out. You have to have an effective wins, like just statement wins going forward. So I think knowing this, especially since it's ranked, they're going to come out guns blazing. I think this game might be over by it could be a 3.5 score game by the start of the 4th. I do think. So, but we'll see. I think Washington maybe keeps it close to the midway through the 3rd, and then I think Oregon does maybe pull away. But I think they will cover, though. I would think.
I agree with you.
Take the points.
I do agree with you.
All right, and finally, just a quick thing: UCLA, Arizona. I think UCLA might be a little snooze game. So after dark game, and they got USC next week, and that could be like a big time. Might be the game day week, spot next week. So that's my only thing on that. I mean, DTR, they should cover. They're double digit favorites, but they're getting 20 right now.
Yeah.
I think Arizona covers, but I do think UCLA wins. I think it's a closer game though.
I think UCLA kills Arizona tomorrow.
Okay.
Only because when people say after dark, I think they kind of forget that that's
It's
7
like
o'clock
8
on the
o'clock
West
there.
Coast. Yeah, that's like a regular night game here.
Yeah.
So it's not that big of a deal to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Chip Kelly has finally gotten this team to that point where it's like we know we can compete.
Mm-hmm.
Like for it's like 10 years, UCLA has been stuck at that point where they're like, we're good, but we can't compete, or we're bad, and we're just bad. But I think he's finally got them to that point where they're like, well, not only are we trying to compete for the Big Ten, or not the Big Ten, the Pac-12, eventually the Big Ten, but we want to go to the Rose Bowl.
Yep.
Like I know the playoff is, but I don't think this team is ready for the playoff yet.
Well, they just want to play at home.
Yeah, no, get a chance to go to the Rose Bowl where they'll actually have fans.
Well, it'll be their home. It'll just head to their home locker room.
Yeah, you get to stay home. You get those cool pictures at night. Mm-hmm. I think UCLA rolls. I think UCLA rolls big.
I just worry maybe possibly about a look ahead, but I think they'll be fine. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll head to your games now.
All right, so my games, I didn't decide to go with the biggest matchups per se for this week, just the ones I thought were most interesting. So I'll start out with Appalachian State and Marshall. Marshall specifically because they're celebrating the anniversary of the plane crash in 1970. They're wearing new helmets. I think you can check them out online where the stripe down the center of the helmet is all the names of everybody who passed away in the accident. I think it's really amazing. Marshall is 1-point favorites last time I saw. I think Marshall wins this game. Big emotion, celebration. App State, since they got the game day visit, they have done nothing but disappoint everybody.
Even then, took a Hail Mary.
The Hail Mary was crazy, but Boone has been sad for a couple weeks now, man.
Well, because they drank
It sucks
themselves
what's
to
happened.
death.
Yeah, they did. But that's all I have to really say about that one. Is I think Marshall's going to win. I think it's just. I thought the uniforms were really cool, and it's a really interesting that they're celebrating this. The so many years since the accident. Any thoughts on this one?
Not really. I mean, I think I think it'll be a close game because why not? I probably Marshall will win. I think it's a close game throughout. But I think that's all I got. So
yeah, not exactly the biggest matchup, but
I'm not going to be watching it personally.
Yeah.
But
I think it's on ESPN Plus, man. I don't think you can watch it.
Yeah. So I'm not going to be watching it per se. But
maybe
what's
they're
the next
fans.
game again?
So
Yeah,
I got
right.
UNC and Wake Forest playing. The reason I picked this one is because this is more or less UNC's biggest test.
Yeah.
They really haven't played a lot of good teams. If you look at their schedule, I think their strength of schedule is around like 50 to 60. So
They're USC at the ACC.
They really are.
They can't cover a spread. They put a bunch of points on the board, and they can't stop you. I will say their defense has played better recently, but in the second half.
So, what I'll say about UNC is, to me personally, I think they have the best quarterback in the country right now. I think Drake May should be the Heisman favorite. The way he's playing football is at a level that nobody else really is at. Like, if you look at his numbers compared to C.J. Stroud, he beats him in every single statistical category. The only thing C.J. Stroud has over him is the fact that he has one more win.
Yep.
So I think UNC is going to win this game, and I think UNC is going to go into their matchup with Clemson.
I think they beat
Clemson.
Clemson.
It's going to be one loss versus one loss. I think they can too.
I think they'll win.
I think this team is New Year's Six bound. Personally, I think this team is going to go to the New Year's Six.
I think they will.
And I think Mac Brown has done a great job since he's come back to UNC. It was an out of the box hire when they brought him in. You're bringing in 80-year-old head coach who got more or less kicked out for getting too old at his last job. And he's suddenly been able to recruit at a high level at North Carolina. He's been able to really bring a good culture of winning, and I think it's impressive. And I think UNC wins. I don't think they cover because they can't physically.
I think the over hits in that game. That's gonna be,
sure.
unless what's been plaguing Wake Forest the last couple of weeks now, which has buried their own grave. Turnovers have been a huge killer. So if they can limit the turnovers, I think it's going to be a shootout. I mean, you might be looking at a 45-40 game.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that.
100%. Mm-hmm. So, next game I had up was FAU versus FIU, which is, in my opinion, the strangest rivalry in this country. Because not only are these teams newer, but this is going to be the last time they probably play each other ever. Mm-hmm. For the fact that FAU is moving up to the American, and FIU's football program not only is probably the biggest loser program in the country, just they don't win anything, they haven't won
Colorado
anything.
State.
Well, even then, FIU's last head coach said that the school was trying to, ruin the team. Like, they're not paying for uniforms. Like, they're using used pads from Mississippi State.
Ew.
Like, there's a legitimate chance that FIU does not have a football program in 5 years. So, when I look at this game, and I'm like, because these programs start at the same time, they're within 50 miles from each other, from Boca to Miami, right? That for the last time a rivalry that hasn't meant anything to this country is played, and that FAU has dominated, it's just interesting to look at to me. That a matchup that you're like, what happened? Like, 4 years ago, FIU beat Miami at home.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years later, we're looking at the possibility that there's no longer football played at FIU. Their biggest rivals passed them. I just think it's an interesting matchup. I think FAU obviously wins. If they don't win, Willie Taggart's gone. But
I mean, I don't have anything on this game. I just know that FAU it seems to always be it's like Groundhog's Day for them, where it's just they just seem to be running in circles. Like they don't. There's no improvement. There's no decline. It's just they stay where they are. They know their role. That's where they are.
Yeah. So the last game I had to talk about was one that I think everybody in the country is quietly watching and not wanting to say out loud. Texas A&M versus Auburn.
I'll be watching.
I'll be watching too. If Texas A&M loses again, they miss a bowl game this year. In year 5 of Jimbo Fisher.
$95 million.
And they'd be losing to Cadillac Williams as the head coach of the Auburn Tigers.
Yep.
Now, my question for you.
Okay.
How bad can things get in College Station? They've lost recruits already.
They have.
They've had members of their.
They've been suspending a bunch of their players. They don't have. Is the flu still outbreak down there?
I don't even know if there was actually a flu. Let's be quite frank here.
I think there was.
There a flu?
I think there was because
some guys also quietly suspended also.
Well, they were down. Well, then I didn't know that. Well, then if they're doing that, they're suspending what? I think there was 21 guys out.
I think so too. I think there was definitely a sickness going around, but I think
there was a flu.
I think they were quietly. I think they quietly dropped more guys than actually were sick.
I don't know, because I think you can't buy them out. I don't think.
Can you?
I don't think you can right now. I think you have to let ride another year or two. I mean, because these guys are young, so you maybe want to see. I think the biggest thing is they have to. I think Jimbo has to look at himself in the mirror and say, hey, my play calling style isn't working. Maybe it's time that I go out and find somebody fresh with new ideas to call the plays instead of me. Mm-hmm. Give off the reins of that. Yeah, that's all I have. I don't think
to counter that.
Yeah.
Only thing I'd say to counter that is the fact that Jimbo Fisher is an offensive coach, right? That's what he came up as. He came up as an offensive coordinator under Nick Saban, under Bobby Bowden. He has never not called the plays. Isn't, you know what I mean? And quite frankly, does Texas A&M, they can't tell him you need an offensive coordinator because he's going to be like, kick rocks.
Yep.
They have to either, because they can't put their foot down because their athletic director, who's not the guy who hired him, by the way,
Yeah.
for some reason caved in and gave him $95 million extension because he was afraid that his coach was going to run off to Louisiana State. Quite frankly, was never going to buy out Jimbo Fisher. Nobody can buy out that coach. And who wants to buy him out? He hasn't won anything at Texas A&M. His biggest achievement is winning the Orange Bowl.
And that was a COVID year.
Yep. That was a COVID year against a UNC team that had like 4 guys opt out, like on their wide receivers.
I mean, he beat Bama last year. He should have possibly beat him this year, but
well, they didn't beat him this year
point,
because he failed. You know what I mean? That's on his coaching. Called an awful play.
At some point, you got to look at the results that have been already put out on the table, and just say, is it time we look at somebody else? I don't think it's yet. I think because he just brought in this big recruiting class. I think that they're still young. We'll give them some time. But the fact that he can't develop a quarterback still right now.
We're in year 5.
Yeah, so I give him time. I don't think don't hit the super panic button yet. I think it's cause for concern level. That's all
I would say if I was an A&M booster right now, right? If they lose against Auburn, I'm hitting the panic button.
See, at this point, wouldn't you have already hit the panic button, though?
But the reason I'm hitting it is because year 5, you're not going to a bowl game. You just lost to a team without a pulse. I think it's a home game, too.
No, it's at Auburn. It's a sold out crowd. It's sold out, too.
It's sold out? Who's going to the game?
Auburn fans, I guess. Watch old Robbie Ashford sling the ball around.
Oh, yeah. So Auburn is going to be playing under Cadillac Williams, right?
I think they'll win. Auburn wins.
I think they win, too. That's the sad thing.
I
think their quarterback can't throw the ball.
I have a buddy that's dad was he's a coach at Auburn. So, like, I think the boys are playing with that nothing to lose intern coach who seems inspired and giving this guy's a lot of life. I mean, you could just look at last week.
He's a program legend.
You could have just looked at last week and been like, that's all I need to know. They could have easily just folded, packed it up, and left Starkville. They were down 24-3, I think. So it's stupid like that. They came back and took the lead at one point. And they were a botched kickoff away from possibly winning that. So I think they win outright. I think Texas A&M is just slowly just continuing their downward spiral. And I think that's what all I got. Go War Damn Eagle. No.
No, what I would say is that I think A&M is in a weird pickle where they don't have a quarterback. They haven't been able to properly develop any wide receivers.
Yep.
Jimbo Fisher's gotten into the same problem he had at Florida State where he can't recruit offensive linemen either. So it's like one of those things where you sit back and look and go, where do you move forward though? Like,
yeah,
what do you like?
It
what do
has
you do?
to start with the play calling. I think their defensively, they're sound.
They're fine, and they've been fine for years. But like,
you
can't
got
put
to
up
be
points.
able. You gotta find the play calling's not working. I mean, you just gotta find some new life with that on that side of the football. But until he does, I don't see where they can go. I don't know. I don't know. I can tell you.
Yeah, that's all I got. I just think it's getting bad for them.
We shall see. Alrighty, so we've come as we draw near to the end of this podcast,
Yep.
section of we're just going over a quick couple of best bets for the weekend, if we want. I have mine already played out. I don't know. Do you have any things you maybe seem enticing?
The only thing that I'm really looking at is Colorado versus USC.
Mm-hmm.
Let me double check the spread, but
It's 31, I think.
34.
34, yeah.
Colorado
66
is covering the spread.
All right.
That's my if you want to make some money. Okay. Colorado not only is going to cover the spread, but I think the over under is going to be higher than 66.
Mm-hmm. I have 11 plays this weekend.
Oh, 11? Oh, let's
11. One second. What in the hell? Damn thing. Anyway, all right. I don't know what that was. I'll just briefly go through them. Indiana, plus 40 this weekend at Ohio State. I'll take the Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Take the Hoosiers. They some reason always play Ohio State close to like at least a half, and then they only lose by like 20. It's at
it's at the Horseshoe though.
I don't think.
No, there's
I'll
no
take
way
the
Ohio State beats them. Yeah, no way.
I'll take the 40. No way. West Virginia plus 8. I'll take it. They're still looking to beat Oklahoma for the first time since joining the Big 12. They haven't beat them since 2008. I think if there's a year to do it, it's this year. You're at home.
Yeah.
I got nothing to lose.
Noon kickoff.
It's a noon kickoff, and you're getting north of a touchdown. I'll take the 8. LSU, I'm taking the points. Take them to cover, -3.
Yep.
Wisconsin, Iowa, I handicapped it. The over-under is 35 right now. I handicapped it and put the under at 37.5.
Okay.
God rest your soul if you're a fan of one of these teams. Anyway, Tulane, I'll take the -1.5. Florida, I'm taking the 5. I handicapped it. They're an 8-point favorite right now. It's senior day. They're playing South Carolina. I don't really know South Carolina. I don't know what Spencer Rattler's still doing. I think that Florida wins. I think the big win. I think, despite how bad A&M is last week, that was a big game for Anthony Richardson. As bad as because as poorly as he played against Georgia, for him to step up, bounce back after at A&M, I think that carries over. I think they get bowl eligible. I handicapped at the 5. I'll take the 5 and the cover. Oregon -13. Texas Tech -3. They get Kansas at home. Kansas coming off one of the biggest wins in program history, making them bowl eligible. The field goal post is still in the river. Shit happens, according to their staff. I'll think Texas Tech bounces back. They let the TCU game slip from beneath them. They're getting them at home. They beat Texas at home already. They've given some other teams fits at home. I think they win outright. Taking the points, Georgia 16.5. Why not? TCU, Texas, I'm hammering the over, and then Auburn -1.5. Those are my plays for the week.
Yeah.
So,
I think all good right there. I think.
Yep.
I don't have any big ones. I'm not great with the numbers personally.
Mm-hmm. Any final thoughts?
How to get better?
Well, any final thoughts here before we call this thing?
Yeah. The only other thing I'll have to say is that I think the committee is pretty bad. And that's it.
Oh, we knew that. I think, yeah, they are. It's just so subjective. It's just. We have. I think there's a commissioner in there from Ohio State. I don't know.
I would put Michigan above Ohio State personally, but
well,
it's here nor there.
They're gonna.
They play each other.
They'll play it out, so we'll figure that out real soon.
Yeah.
I don't really have any final thoughts. Let's have a Saturday.
Yeah.
So starts tonight.
I think it's gonna be a great Saturday tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's a decent Saturday, especially after last week. Last week's Saturday was unbelievable. So this week, there's some solid games still, but hopefully both our teams win, show up, show out, and we will pretty much conclude it from now. When we say the next podcast will be Saturday night.
We'll be back after the game Saturday night. We'll recap a lot of the bigger scores, bigger games. Obviously, we'll recap the Georgia and the Florida State game, but we'll be back then.
I say going forward. I think the schedule will be we'll have a reaction. We'll have our today pod, which will be a look ahead into the matchups like we did today. A reaction after Saturday, and then we'll do a Tuesday night after the rankings. So, other than that, I don't have anything. I don't know if you, but
only thing I'll have to add is I recently made a purchase. I bought one of the Wyoming polos. Very nice.
Nice.
Brown with the gold cowboy. Oof, it's icy.
Looking good.
All right.
Alrighty.
We'll be back. See you guys.
See ya.